This is starting to look like a real life schoolie, huh? Starting to. What's up, everybody? I am back in the bus and getting ready to start a new project here. The next thing I'm going to be doing is mounting solar panels on the roof. I'm going to be using these 6 410 watt Panasonic solar panels. They're residential size, and they're going to be going the entire length of my roof. Now, the system I'm using is something that you've probably seen online if you are investigating the SKOOLIE conversion space. And it's going to be using these slotted aluminum rails. Now, I'll try to get this in the shot here. They're pretty long. You might be able to see there is a slot on the top here, and then a couple slots on the inside where my thumb is. It's a really cool product. It's a product by Iron Ridge. It's the Iron Ridge XR 1000 slotted aluminum solar rail. They also come in XR10 and XR 100 lines. As you can imagine, as the number goes up, the strength does as well. So from what I was able to find, these are the strongest aluminum rails that Iron Ridge offers. And the way I'm going to be mounting these rails, I'm going to be mounting them the entire length of the bus. They're just going to run parallel to each other all the way down the roof, and then I'm going to be able to basically mount the solar panels in any way that I want to. I can move them around really easily. But the way I'm going to be mounting these rails is actually something that I think is really cool and pretty easy, so we'll see how bad I screw it up. But this is how I'm going to mount the rails onto the roof. This is a really cool little mounting bracket that a guy over on YouTube at the Sojourner's Way YouTube channel actually manufactures himself. They are angled in such a way that accounts for the slope of the bus roof. So when you go down the slope, you don't have to pack the bottom of your bracket to get a nice flush sitting. And when it's sitting on the sloped portion of your roof, it's easier to get a 90 degrees sitting on your vertical piece. So that's going to be really handy. In this kind of setting, I like to err on the side of overdoing it. So instead of using screws, I'm actually going to be through bolting all the way through the rib of the bus onto the interior, and then using some lock washers and nuts to tighten it down and lock the bracket into place that way. I'm just going to be using this stainless steel bolt to go through the roof and the rib of the bus. And then once it comes out the inside, I'm going to go ahead and grab a lock washer, and nut, tighten it all up, and then when I have everything in place, I'll torque it down and it'll be all nice and tight and not going anywhere. I have a few on there, so let me go ahead and show you what I'm talking about. This is what it's going to look like from the top here. You can see that I through bolted with a stainless steel bolt through these brackets here, and this bracket is what's going to hold the rail all along the length of the bus all the way down there. Alright, sorry for the post-production audio here. I was breathing really heavy into the mic and it was getting annoying. So I wanted to show you guys how I'm determining where to put my brackets here. So I grab a bracket and I flip it to where the long slot is on the vertical side and the two smaller holes are on the bottom side of the bracket. And then I went ahead and grabbed this $25 little 360 degree level from a hardware store. And I know what some of y'all are thinking right off the bat, that why are you using a level? Nothing's level on the bus, and I understand that. However, I did determine that for my bus and where it was sitting, the ground that it was sitting on, a level will work just fine for my purposes with mounting these rails. So do with that information what you will. So what I did is I set it to 90 degrees and then slapped it on the side of my bracket that's going to be sitting in the vertical position, and then slid it down the roof until the bubble was in the middle, indicating that it was level there, which meant that I had a 90 degree angle on that piece of the bracket. And this is a great starting point and is super crucial to know for your rails to be able to sit vertically and parallel with each other. But it's not the only thing that we're going to be taking into consideration. As some of you may know, a school bus roof is very far from square, and it rises and dips in different places that you really can't see just by looking at it. But once you start mounting these brackets, you'll definitely see what I'm talking about. And just to show you here, I'm going to show you how out of line they are if you're just going by the 90 degree marks. So here's a great example of that. I marked two neighboring brackets where they both hit 90 degrees, and as you can see, that mark for that bracket is quite a bit lower than the mark for that bracket. So if I were to have just used the 90 degree marks, those two brackets would not have been in line, and I could not have mounted my rail on those two brackets while keeping it perfectly straight and parallel with the edge of the bus. And here's the entire roof as an example. I'm just going to show you how bad it truly does get if you're just using the 90-degree marks. And you can see that red line there. That's a chalk line. I actually messed up and snapped a few extra lines before I found a line that I really liked. Just use your own discretion, figure out kind of where the majority of your marks are close enough together to probably make it work with minimal bending of the brackets, and then snap a little best fit line to mount all your brackets on. But you can see like the difference between this mark right here and the initial mark I made on the rear of the bus. That was like a 3 or 4 inch difference right there. So definitely can't just use the 90-degree marks. Very important here to find a best fit line, and it'll probably work out better than you anticipate it working out. I really didn't have to do any bending of any brackets, even when, you know, a couple brackets here and there didn't perfectly hit 90 degrees where the best fit line was. So do with that information what you will, and let's get back to it. All right, so I'm getting ready to splice together my sections of rail. So Iron Ridge sells, along with their rails, a rail splice. It's just a little piece of aluminum that looks like the rail. It goes into one side and then fits into the other of another rail. And then you just shoot some self-tappers right into the back side of this, and it holds in place pretty well. That's how I'm gonna get one continuous rail piece to go about 32 feet, I believe, if my measurements are correct. All right, so I have my 2 rails here. I put the splice into one side already, and then so I'm gonna try to do this with one hand as best I can, but might scrape up the paint. I need to do a touch up anyway. Some of the paint didn't adhere very well, but basically there's an opening here. Let me just, oh, can I do it with one hand? I guess I could go get my tripod, but I think I'm good. Boom, there we go. And so you butt it up nice and close. And then in the back side here, we'll flip it down. In the back side, yeah, I need a touch up. We just shoot some self-tappers, boom, 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 boom. And we got one 28-foot long rail. Pretty easy. All right, and I got 4 screws in there, and now it's a fairly solid piece of rail here. I'm gonna go ahead and hop up there and do a little test fit and see if we have a good sit on these rails. All right, so I have a dry fit of my rails here. It's looking pretty darn good. I was worried that the rail wouldn't sit vertically here, given how much I had to adjust where the brackets were compared to where they sat at 90 degrees. But I mean, it's doing a pretty darn good job of sitting vertically right now. Now, obviously it's not all the way tightened down on every bracket, and each bracket isn't torqued down to what it needs to be finished, but for a dry fit on this, it looks really good. Real quick though, just in case you are curious on how this whole thing works, I'll try to get this for you with one hand. So these rails utilize this UFO. It's called a universal fastening device, and it's got this kind of like diamond shaped head on it with these little teeth on the back. That's designed to twist into a slot and pull against it to where it's going to lock into place and not spin around. So basically, I'm not going to do that with one hand, but essentially here, imagine this is going into that slot. You insert it into the slot here, and then you twist it one way or the other. And then once you tighten your nut on there, like that one, that washer nut there, once it's tightened on, it's not going to slide and it's not going to rotate, so it locks into place without having to make any extra punctures. It's really cool. And that's actually what I'm going to be doing to mount my solar panel clamps as well. The clamps, I don't have them with me at the moment, but they have this similar looking head to it, and it actually goes into this top rail. So you just insert it, twist it, and then the clamp is locked into place, and then you can clamp it down to your panels as needed. Makes it really easy to move your panels wherever you need to move them, so they're not locked into one place that you drilled a hole and you can't really move them if you need to. Pretty cool. Okay, so I'm making pretty good headway, but I wanted to take this opportunity to kind of show you the whole process of getting one of these brackets mounted. All right, more post-production audio. Sorry guys, I am just huffing and puffing in my phone camera here, and might need to hit the Stairmaster here soon and get my cardio up because this is getting bad. But anyway, I'm going to be mounting this bracket on this rib here, and you'll notice that there are 2 rows of rivets here rather than 1 on that rib, and that poses an issue because the bracket that I have at least is slightly wider than that gap provides space for. So it won't sit flat if you're just putting it right on top of both sets or one set of rivet. So really all you got to do is drill a little hole that's big enough to fit around a rivet, and you can place it down and it'll sit nice and flat. Really, that's all there is to it. So let's go ahead and drill out this hole. Okay, so I got the hole drilled. Now I'm going to take my bolt in a washer like so, and then go ahead and put that through the bracket here like so, and then just straight down through. All right, so now we're down inside, and you can see this bolt pokes out pretty much directly in the middle of this rib here. And so now I just grab a washer, lock washer, and a nut, and then go ahead and tighten it down on there, just like so. All right, so got both of these rails kind of dry fit to the roof. What I need to do now is go ahead and grab my sealants. I'm going to be using 2 types of sealant. I'll show you in a second. Okay, so here are the 2 types of sealants that I'm going to use for getting the brackets sealed up. The first one is going to be this PL Loctite Marine sealant. I was looking for a certain other brand. I think it was like a UV rated Sitka sealant, but really I was just looking for something that could withstand like the elements in water and potential sunlight and whatnot. So I think that'll work just fine. I couldn't find the Sitka brand. And then good old butyl. If you don't know what butyl is, it's basically like this gummy, rubbery texture that is pretty sticky. Comes in these rolls. You can find it in like thicker rolls too, but this is the stuff they sell at Home Depot. It's like about that thick. And what you do is you just stick it on whatever you want to seal, and then it squeezes out as you tighten it, and you can trim off all the excess. I love this stuff. I've used it on pretty much everything that I've sealed on the bus so far, along with some other sealants, but like my windows, my roof patches, my Max Air fans, like everything has had butyl in it, and it's worked really great. Butyl is killer. I think this whole roll is like $5, so it's pretty cheap too. It's pretty awesome. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a little layer of butyl, and I'm gonna go along kind of the outside edge of the bracket, and then once that squeezes down, I can just trim the excess. And then on the inside layer, I'm gonna use this Loctite PL and just do like a little just like that. And I'm also gonna go over, I don't have it on me at the moment, but oh, actually, hold on. Just kidding, I do. So once I have everything sat like I need it, I'm gonna go over the top of my bolt and washer and bracket with this Dicor self-leveling sealant. This stuff is killer too. I use this on my Max Air fans too, and it cures like a rock. Like nothing gets through it. It's pretty awesome. These are the 3 types of sealant I'm gonna use for my brackets. Overkill, maybe, but I do not want any leaks. So overkill is good in my book. All right, let's go ahead and get to it. It's a new day. Unfortunately, when I was putting on the brackets with all the sealant last night, the phone died. My phone died, so I couldn't get all of it on video. I'm actually pretty happy with it, I think. We got a lot of squeeze out from the sealant, so let me show you. So here's one of the brackets that we got sit. As you can clearly see, there's a ton of butyl squeeze out here, which is a really good thing. That means all the butyl is really packed tightly underneath this bracket. So there's not gonna be really any chance of water getting in there. And then you can see this is that marine sealant, that Loctite sealant. It's not fully cured yet. It still has to probably take another day or two to get fully cured, but that had some really good squeeze out as well. So I really don't think there's any chance of water getting in between any of these brackets. They kind of all had that same type of squeeze out here. So I'm really happy with it. So next thing I'm gonna do is go grab my rails. Actually, I have them up on the roof here still. I'm gonna grab these rails and install them on the brackets. Should be pretty straightforward. And then once that is done with, I'll go ahead and catch up with you guys and show you the finished product there. Pro tip, get you a partner to help you do this. These things are not light. All right, I'm making headway. I got one panel up and partially mounted with these clamps. I'm gonna show you from the top. It looks really good, actually. I'm gonna show you from the top, and then I'm gonna show you the two different types of solar clamps I'm using and how I'm using them. So come along. All right, I am back once again with some more post-production audio. Sorry for my breathing problems, but here's the kind of the anatomy of how you're going to be clamping in your solar panels. Each solar panel is going to need 4 clamps, one for each corner, let's say, and the types of clamps they're going to need differ depending on how you're grouping together your panel. So you can see I have a group of 2 panels here together, so they're going to need 2 different types of clamps. This clamp that I'm showing you right now is called an end clamp, and like its name suggests, it goes and clamps on the end of a panel or a group of panels. And then this clamp is called a mid clamp. It's like a T-shape, and that is designed to clamp 2 panels together in a group in between the 2. So for my array, I'm going to have 3 groups of 2 panels together, and that's going to mean I need for each 2 panel group 4 end clamps and 2 mid clamps. So altogether that would equal 12 end clamps and 6 mid clamps if my quick math is correct. Alright, so here's how you're going to clamp on one of these solar clamps, and honestly it couldn't be easier. It takes like 30 seconds maybe to clamp one of these on. Really simple. It comes with that same kind of diamond shaped universal fastening object head, but this time it's on a clamp. And all you got to do, it comes with these teeth on the clamp, and you can adjust it to how high your panel is sitting off of your rail. Mine is pretty flush with the rail, so I can go all the way down to the bottommost position here and then insert it into the rail. And then once I have it inserted into the rail, I position the clamp to clamp over the outside edge of the panel. And then you can grab either a ratcheting wrench, regular wrench, or in this case, a drill with a socket on there, and then just tighten it down to where it's not going to come off. And that is it. Really, really easy. And as you can see, it makes it really easy if you want to at some point take them off, which I will need to do in the future in order to both wire and paint my roof. So really important here that they're easy to remove, but they're secure enough not to go flying if I'm driving down the highway. So with those 2 installed, I got 4 more to install here. I'm gonna go ahead and set you up and you can watch me do the rest of them. Let me show y'all something. Boom. 6 solar panels installed. I am pretty stoked about how these look, to be completely honest with you. Of course, they're not wired yet. That's going to be a separate video because wiring is its own big ordeal that I'm not too familiar with quite yet, so I need to familiarize myself. But take a look at how clean and low profile these are. Like, oh, look at that. Oh my goodness. They're like barely sitting off the roof. not adding any more additional height. Like my max air fans are sitting higher than my solar panels, which is freaking sweet, man. I'm super happy about that. And once I have this back rail piece in, I'll have room for like a 5-foot deck on there. Rad. So a little overview. So I have 6 410 watt residential size solar panels up here. So that's just over 2,400 watts of solar on the roof. And my plan is to wire them in series parallel. So doing 3 in series, 3 in series, and then connecting them via parallel wiring. And then have my entry gland right about here or there. I'm not really sure yet. Probably here. But anyway, 2,400 watts of solar, or 2,440 to be, or 2,460 to be exact. That should be more than enough to power all my gadgets and doodads for the foreseeable future. Now, I might have said it before, but unfortunately I will have to remove these panels at some point in the future because I do need to prime and paint the roof. And unfortunately I can't do that for, I don't even know how long, because it's the end of December, almost the new year, and it's freaking cold out here. And I can't really, I can paint, but I don't think it's worth the hassle and worth the risk of not getting good adhesion to paint under, 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which we're going to be under that for quite some time. And I wanted to get these panels on so I can get them wired up and move on to the next step on the inside. So yeah, in probably the springtime, I'll have to take these off and paint them, but that's not a huge deal. For now, I am happy with where we're sitting. All right, that's where I'm going to end this video. Let me know if you think this turned out as well as I think it did, because I think it looks great. And if you have a better way of doing this, feel free to let me know in the comments. And if you want to see me wire up these panels later on, go ahead and subscribe and you can see my next video when that comes out. All right, I'll see you next time.